Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kieran. I'm a junior doctor and a comedian working in Manchester. I, as you know, if you've been following the channel, talk about being a doctor, comedian, YouTuber, and whenever I say that, people always say to me, how do you find the time? How do you find the time in medicine to do all of these other things? And today we're talking about how I manage my time as a doctor and a YouTuber. Let's get into it. The first thing is just focus on the important things and bin off the rest. YouTubers love to bang on about this thing called the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule. This is where 80% of the output is coming from 20% of the input. So if you attribute that to exams, you imagine it like 20% of that content is giving you 80% of those marks. So basically focus on the common things, focus on the core of it, and just forget the rest. The rest will come if you have time, but if you don't have time, just make sure you have that core down. And this is something that I use in my life all of the time. I will take a task and focus on the crux of the task and make sure I've got most of it down, but I won't necessarily go into every little detail into everything, because in that way I can manage my time and also have time to do other things. This is a principle that I use in my everyday life as well. I only eat 80% of the food on my plate. I only empty 80% of my bladder when I go for a pee. I only finish 80% of my sentences. And also I only do 80%. Consider time as blocks. In a day, you've got 24 blocks of time. Let's say you spend 8 hours a day at work and 8 hours a day sleeping. That's 16 blocks used up, and you've got 8 blocks in which you could literally do whatever you want. Let's say theoretically it takes 1 block to make food, you need 1 block to get to work and to get from work. You've got 6 blocks of time in which you could do literally anything you want. And this is the time in which I used to write comedy scripts, that I used to travel to shows and perform shows. I used to regularly after work drive 2-3 hours, do a show, come back. So decide on something that you want to do, allocate a few blocks of time to that thing each day, and the rest of those blocks are just downtime. They're chill time for you. Don't try and go crazy. Don't try and fit 6 blocks in every single day. It's a recipe for disaster. And trust me, I've tried it. You're gonna burn out. You're gonna become ill. You're gonna lose interest in what you're doing because you're trying to put so much pressure on yourself. Think about the long game. Think about what you can achieve in the long term. Do it for a few hours every single day, and that's when you can actually build something that's sustainable. Anyone can do an all-nighter, but not everyone has the discipline to have that longevity to keep working for a few hours every single day to get the long-term success. And that's where the key is in this. It's not possible to work and play at the same time. And trust me, I've tried it. I always used to think it was possible, and I try and do both and multitask, but it's not. I used to sit there tapping away on my computer, replying to emails, writing scripts while I was watching Made in Chelsea in the background. Made in Chelsea. Now, I don't watch Made in Chelsea. But trust me, your work will be way worse because you're trying to do something else at the same time. You've not felt properly rested because you're working while you're resting, and you've basically done neither of these things well. Work when you're meant to work, play when you're meant to play, and make sure that you've got that boundary. Otherwise, trust me, you will end up being a jack of no trades, and no one wants to be a jack of no trades. Another mistake that I used to make is trying to do too many things at once and not focusing on one task at a time. Trust me, just do one task at a time, and this is a really effective way of managing your time. Make sure you pick a task with an achievable goal, so there's an endpoint to the task. Sit down, complete that task, and when that task is completed, move on to the next task. It's very easy when you've got loads of things to do to think, I need to do this and this and this, and do a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of this, and at the end of the session, which you've given yourself the time for, you've actually accomplished none of these things. And I don't know about you, but that gives me anxiety. I like to feel like I've achieved something in that session. and you do a bit of this, bit of this, bit of this, the starting a new thing actually takes time, and you're losing time by doing that. Actually completing a task gives you that mental satisfaction and gives you that reduction in stress, knowing that you've got one less thing to worry about and one less thing to do. The most important part of managing my time is planning in advance. It's all well and good having 6 time blocks left. Time blocks is starting to sound like Lego now. It's all well and good having 6 time blocks left, but if you're not going to plan what you're going to do in those time blocks, you may as well just all over them. Now, I'm not talking about going crazy and planning what you're going to do in 6 Tuesdays from now at 8 p.m, but what I'm talking about is at least the day before knowing what you're going to do for the next day. This means that when the next day comes, you know exactly what you're expected to do for yourself, and there's no wasted time thinking, well, what am I going to do in this time? You need to also make sure that goal is achievable and measurable. And here's an example. Let's say I've decided to allocate 3 time blocks to writing YouTube scripts. I wouldn't leave that as writing YouTube scripts. I would leave it as write 2 scripts and film 1 video. This means I've got a specific goal, not a vague thing that I'm meant to be doing that's going to spill out into those 6 hours of time. Once I've written those 2 scripts, once I've filmed that video, that's it. It's done, and then it's playtime from then after. So the most important thing about planning in advance is having a specific goal that's achievable, and then time after you've planned is chill time. Don't keep working and working and working because you're going to burn out. Okay, so the last one is about keeping a really strict diary. So this is a really effective way of managing time and making sure you know what's going on and that you can use the time effectively. I put lots of really unnecessary things in the diary so I can kind of visualize exactly what my day is going to look like. The kind of things I'll include are trips to the supermarkets, even, plans with friends, time for writing scripts. Everything that I'm planning on doing in the day should be laid out inside this diary, even little mundane everyday tasks, so I know what I'm meant to be doing, and anything outside of these tasks is playtime. So then I don't feel guilty about not doing anything because I don't have anything planned. It's not like I have something I'm meant to be doing and I'm not doing it and I feel guilty for not doing it. The actual fact is that I've got nothing planned. And if I do think of something, I can always plan it in the diary, or I can plan it for the next day. I know that it's not very spontaneous, but genuinely it's such a good way when you're limited on time of making sure that you're using your time efficiently. The other thing that I love to do is to plan in holidays. When I know I have something to look forward to, like a holiday, I will work harder and work towards that goal. I know that if I'm working towards a holiday, I'm going to have to take less breaks now so that during that time I can properly relax. When you've got something to look forward to, it makes you work harder in the short term. All of these techniques are what I use on a day-to-day basis to make sure that I'm using my time effectively and that I can do everything that I do as a doctor, YouTuber, and comedian. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. As always, if you're new to the team, make sure you hit that subscribe button to join the collective. Take care, and I guess I'll see you next week.